been the same. If they stopped the RMP when that car collided. Now, allegedly, the car collided and there was an explosion. And they have that from video, right? There's video that shows the accident. They're not releasing it. But supposedly it was engulfed in flames, rather quickly. So now if the RMP pulls up behind them, they get out, put it over. They try to open the door. The door's jammed. They can't get in. The guy perishes in the car.
You know what? Call it off. And it takes also, John, I'm sure you agree, right? It takes you and your team or your partner, depending on what your work scenario is. If we did anti-crime most of our careers, but when you're with a team, it's like you guys talk to each other. Like, let's go. This is enough. We got to stop. So that sensibility of talking up to each other, I think we've lost.
I think the other thing, and a lot of people are pointing it out in the notes, like you really do got to put the blame on the upper management. You got to put the blame on the chief of department, Kaz Daughtry. I mean, they put this culture in the NYPD for the last 2 years. The NYPD's culture for the last 2 years is you're going to chase vehicles. There's pressure. There's still pressure today behind the scenes to chase vehicles. I don't care what Jessica Tisch says. Jessica Tisch is not running the New York City Police Department like others will tell you.
That pursuits can be dangerous, but the NYPD says they're also a valuable tool to catch suspected criminals under the right conditions.
A pair of police pursuits over the weekend. NYPD officers giving chase, making arrests, pulling guns off the street.
We're not going to allow this to happen anymore. Our training, our expertise, we're pretty good at it, and we continue stopping cars and bikes that are breaking the law in the city. We are not letting you walk away. We will be compassionate, we'll be kind, we'll give people breaks, but breaking the law, guns, shootings, gang members, robberies with these cars and bikes, we are not having it anymore. It's over.
She is not running the police department. Eric Adams is running the police department through John Schell, who he called the chief of patrol yesterday, and because he doesn't even know what he does, and Kaz Daughtry. Like, Kaz Daughtry is running the police department. There is still pressure to put those chases on. And although these guys acted improperly, leading up to the chase, they were acting as they were expected to act by the upper echelon of this department. This was the culture that John Schell created. John Schell would have never pulled back on those pursuits. The only reason they did is it started to get task force were being created in the state attorney general's office to go after them. The news articles were piling up. I mean, this isn't the first death stemming from a pursuit. This isn't the first death where people have acted improperly during a pursuit and then led to a death. But here's the difference. You're not wearing khaki pants. Your daddy wasn't a cop. You're not protected from the NYPD. So this is going to come out, and it's going to go the proper way that things should actually happen, unlike what we've seen with secretive units, that it's okay for them to not wear their body cameras, not put things over the radio, and do really bad things at the scenes. So unfortunately, I do blame the leadership. I do.
Yeah, Ron says it a couple of times on the executive perspective about systematic inadequate leadership and systematic inadequate supervision, and I think this is an example. But in the back of my head, I have to wonder how much of this poor supervision is it due to manpower shortage, or is it due to supervisors who just don't have that experience anymore, because or the fact that the precincts don't have those veteran guys anymore to go and tell these young guys, hey, when to knock off this chase, when to be smart about it. So something I'm thinking of right now when it comes to that.
I think that is a major, major part of it right there, Marlon. And Mike Smith brought it up on his interview. That we're losing again. 44% of the police officers rank 4 years or less. They're not even tenured at 5 years. 4 years or less. 44% as of October. That's incredible. When we came on the job, we were taught more by the senior cops than by our supervisors. Right? Even in field training, I came on during field training, not during impact. And you learned from the senior cops, and the whole cultural shift towards impact, you lost that connection with the senior cops. You didn't start learning until you got out of impact, because impact, it was basically, team-led enforcement. You're standing there, your omnipresence and enforcement, get your numbers. You're losing that. And again, I've said it several times about what Michael Dowd said at the Marlon Commission is that, hey, if Sergeant Leyson's working, I know that I'm going to get scratched by 12:30, 1:45 on the midnight tour. The rest of the night is mine. I'm not going to see him unless, God forbid, something big happens. But if Sergeant Dim is working, I don't know when he's going to show up. I don't know when he's going to scratch me. I don't know if he's going to scratch me more than once, because there's leadership there. Where this is a midnight tour this happened on. So what is the situation? Now, part of the investigation that I would be conducting is, let me see when these guys are scratched, how often these guys are scratched. And then it will probably expand even past that when I'm, once the ancillary investigation goes. Because I'm looking at the bigger picture, right? As the executive, I want to know what gave them the ability to think that it's okay to do what they did to get to the point of the tragedy. Because I want to look at the big picture. To get to the point of the tragedy, I got to look at the supervision. What's going on my late tour that these guys thought it's okay that they don't have to put their body on camera, they could run into another borough.
I think John nailed it here. John nailed it in saying what led to that is the culture has been implemented by John Shell and Kaz Daughtry of vehicle pursuits are part of the crime fighting plan. And that's what we see across the board. I mean, I spoke to numerous captains, actually, anonymously. Of course, I keep them secret, where the pressure on them was to keep these vehicle pursuits going, and that some of them were actually timid and meek to actually call some of these pursuits off because they were scared and timid to the backlash that they're going to get from the chief of department, not the chief of patrol, John Shell. And that's where I think, John, you hit the mark. Yes, there's definitely issues with leadership on this job at the lower level, and we support the rank and file. There's some great leadership, and there's some leadership that's just okay at the lower ranks on the job at middle management and frontline supervision. But the overwhelming majority of the job right now is in this culture and in this vacuum to take part in vehicle pursuits. And where the rubber meets the road is what John said. If you're in khaki pants, yeah, you can do it all you want. But if you're general population and you're involved with a vehicle pursuit, you know what? Then justice is going to come down on you. And we see it across the board. Nationwide, I read articles all the time. There's cops that are serving 25 years to life for engaging in a vehicle pursuit that went bad, and this is what could happen to them. And John, that's where I think you're absolutely right. Yes, there's issues with leadership, but it's now the culture that is the crime fighting plan, and I don't think it stopped. And clearly, we see it right here. It just happened in the recent week. So this culture has not stopped. It's still going.
And again, it does stem from the top, because remember when Chief Matty Pontillo did an audit, right, from the Professional Standards Bureau. And one of the main things that came up was because he was looking at the vehicle pursuits and the such a large increase in vehicle pursuits and the outcomes of these vehicle pursuits. And when he did his job, that was his job. His job was a checks and balance. And he was in charge of basically overseeing that the job is doing things correctly and constitutionally. And, once he produced that, he was shown the door. They didn't take his information and say, okay, we got to do something about this, which is what his job is or was. And he was shown the door by the leadership because he went against the grain.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing, the last thing, I think we should talk about on this is the lack of training in the NYPD. And I think training's huge here. I think this is a huge, huge training issue. Now, I think they were trained on how to do a vehicle pursuit. I think they knew what was right and wrong for a vehicle pursuit. But here you have two cops who work in the 50th precinct in the Bronx on a midnight. So there's usually less supervision on the midnight. You're usually, but you do see a lot of stuff, right? I know the 5-0 is not considered one of the A houses in the Bronx, but it's a busy place. And you're still gonna see stuff in the midnight. Like I always said, you get shots fired in the day, it might not be real. You get shots fired on the midnight, it's real. It's like the midnights usually are more well-rounded police officers, in my opinion, because they see a lot more stuff. They don't handle the jobs at a higher rate, but they handle them definitely more. There's in New York City overnight is when the major crime happens, in my opinion. And I think the statistics show that, like the violent crime, the truly horrific incidents, the bad car accidents, the drunk driving, all that stuff. But here you got two guys with 5 years on the job, and they have no idea how an investigation happens. Because if they did, there's no way that they do what they did, right? Your partner starts to drive away. Let's go back to the command. Bro, what are you, crazy? We're on camera everywhere. They're going to pull all the cameras. They're going to see we were chasing them. Go back and help the guy.
AVLs.
Mind? You have AVLs. So what's an AVL, right? They could tell at a moment's notice where your car was. They could do replay on your car. I could check the replay on your car. I could go back and see that every route you drove, every time you stopped, and how fast you were traveling at that time. And the AVL,
if your lights and sirens were on.
And if the lights and sirens were activated, and supposedly the AVL clocked them at 105 miles an hour in New York City in the 3-4 precinct in a zone that was 30 miles an hour. So I mean, that's not confirmed, but that's what it was, and so I think that's the bigger thing too. I think guys knowing things could save them from that fear, from even give people some more integrity that maybe they need some, because it's like, you know what? Well, if I don't do this, I'm going to get caught anyway, and I'm going to go to jail. So what am I doing? And I think that's huge.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.